Hey everyone, welcome here. We're here with the legendary David Garibaldi, and many of you have probably seen his special lesson here on Drumeo, and we also have a course from David inside of Drumeo. But when we were kind of preparing for all this, he started talking about this King Kong beat, and I asked him a question. I said, "Is this like?" Because you were saying this is it. This is what a lot of what you do is based off of, and it kind of got to the point where it's like, well, this is like one of the most important beats you've ever learned, right?
Pretty much.
And so I thought it'd be cool to film a video and just ask you a little bit about it and talk a little bit about exactly what it is. And so what is the King Kong beat? Where did you learn it from? And you know, how has it really inspired you in your playing?
The King Kong beat was kind of like legendary in, amongst drummer pals of mine in the early 70s, you know. And I had a friend of mine who lived in Los Angeles who used to tell me about this band called Redbone. And the drummer had this beat that he called the King Kong. So finally, when I heard them, got their album, right?
Yeah.
And the song was called Prehistoric Rhythm. And the lyric was, prehistoric rhythm with the King Kong beat. Right?
Nice.
And so the drummer is Pete DePoe.
Okay.
Great drummer, lives in Washington, killer player. And he was playing a rhythm kind of on the bell of his cymbal all the time, right? Or even on his hi-hat.
Yeah.
That was basically this, 3, 4. So you find that in lots of Latin music.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very common, right? But he took it and he had it on the drum set, right? So he would play beats that sounded similar to this. Right?
Right.
And he used the bell of the cymbal. I'm kind of improvising a little bit, but
Right.
that's kind of the vibe of what he was doing.
Right.
So I took that and kind of started fooling around with it, right? And it completely opened up all of my playing, because prior to that, my playing was done in a very traditional sort of way. Everything was, with the 8th note hi-hat or 16th note hi-hat, things like that, right?
Yeah.
And all of the syncopations were basically coming from my snare and bass drum, very traditional, right? But then when I saw that, and then I had also been listening to Zigaboo with the meters, that sort of changed everything about my playing. I realized, wow, I can incorporate a lot of this stuff into what I was doing. Then I was like listening to Latin music. And as we talked about in the live lesson, the thing with Latin music was there was no drum set at the time, at least not the kind of drum set that appears in Latin music today, Afro-Cuban stuff, the timba and all that, But there's this incredible groove going on, but there's no drum set, right? So I'm thinking, well, I can take some of these things that I'm learning, right, and play them in a non-traditional sort of way and get them to groove, right? So the King Kong sort of helped me in that direction.
Awesome. Can we just so we give a clear picture of exactly what it looks like, we will transcribe it out and we'll get you to play it along with the metronome. And then we can just put it on screen and show everyone exactly how it looks.
Okay, so it's very paradiddle-ish.
Right.
Right? So paradiddle being this. Parts of the King Kong are in there, right? And so when you add the King Kong rhythm to it, so what I did is I just added kind of that layering concept, which we'll talk about in, in another lesson. But notes that overlap. Those are all three of the parts and how they, overlap.
Cool. So can we put it to a metronome then?
So I'll start with the hands first.
Sure.
There's a few little variations.
Right, that sounds great.
Then you can orchestrate it, using different voices, right?
Yeah.
Hi-hat, instead of hi-hat, either a bell, right? Or the bell of the cymbal. Or another cool one is to use the bell and then play all the ghosted notes over here on your hi-hat and the accented notes on your snare drum.
Right.
So the basic pattern is this. So if you play quarter notes here, and then you play the unaccented notes over here,
Yeah.
then you get a little swish before 1 and 3. Different layers of
Right.
things going on, that you can do.
Yeah. So it's like you spoke in the beginning, how we're playing those constant eighth notes or 16th notes. This is kind of one of those grooves that can really kind of get you out of that rut. And it takes a lot of coordination by, you talked about the linear versus layered, because parts of that are linear, but then you're layering different notes over top of that. So
the layering is considerably more difficult to line everything up,
Right.
And if it's something that's comfortable for you to do, fine. If it's not, then a more linear approach is, you can work on that. But really, playing what we do here is both.
Yeah. Exactly. Where it's always linear.
It's going to be one or the other, or a combination of both,
Yeah.
leaning more to one side than the other, depending on kind of where your ideas are taking you.
Right. Awesome. Well, I love that the title of the lesson is most important beat I ever learned, because it's your most important beat. And
Absolutely, that's the truth.
yeah, and I'm sure everyone, I would recommend giving this a try. Get to your kits, give it a try.
Get to your kids, folks.
Get to your kits, give it a try, and kind of, experiment around with it and try and come up with something of your own. Because I think, like, for me, I have those beats that I've kind of latched onto and that I play all the time, and they've been really, inspired me to kind of come up with my own sound. And I think we all have those types of drum beats. And so, thank you for sharing yours.
Pleasure.
We really appreciate it. And if you haven't checked out David's live lesson on our YouTube channel or inside of Drumeo, you should definitely do that. We've got a full course with David inside of Drumeo for our members as well, so check that out if you can. Thank you so much
A pleasure.
for doing this, man.
Get to your kits.
Get to your kits and go practice.